Cambodia is a land in transition, emerging from a violent past. In the late 1970s, a quarter of the population was killed by the Khmer Rouge. Now a new generation is coming of age and helping to rebuild this war-torn country. I came to Cambodia to find out how survivors of the genocide are confronting their former oppressors and passing the lessons of the past to the youth who will decide Cambodia's future. Walking through a typical market like this one, I find elder Cambodians going about their daily lives, selling almonds and fruit. But behind every gentle gaze is a story of loss from the genocide. Tep An was a teenager in 1975 when Khmer Rouge forces led by Pol Pot took control of the country. Like most Cambodians, she was moved to the countryside and forced into backbreaking work at a labor camp. This forced labor was part of the Khmer Rouge vision for an agrarian, communist society. Those who were educated, teachers, doctors, lawyers, were targeted and killed. In less than 4 years, nearly 2 million Cambodians died of starvation, disease, or execution. An herself lost 10 family members to the regime's brutality and paranoia. She says her father was probably killed here, at the Chung Ek killing fields. Thousands were killed here and dumped into mass graves. Now it's one of Phnom Penh's biggest tourist attractions. This man knows the killing fields well. His name is Him Hoi, and he's a former Khmer Rouge prison guard. Hoi worked here at Phnom Penh's notorious Tolslang prison, also known as S21. Thousands of prisoners were tortured and interrogated here before being sent to the killing fields for execution. Chum May is one of a handful of prisoners who survived S21. On this day, May came back to the place he was tortured to meet his friend Samrati. Rati is also a survivor, held in a Khmer Rouge prison on the other side of the country. Their shared experience has brought them together. The Khmer Rouge was meticulous in documenting those who passed through here. Every prisoner was photographed, women, children, the young and the old. Their faces serve as a reminder of the horror that ripped the nation apart. Were these terrified people really enemies of the state? Why would Cambodians slaughter their own people? These unanswered questions still haunt this shattered nation, as its people struggle to understand.
The whole nation is broken. You know, when you drop a glass on the floor, it's broken. Our job to pick all these broken pieces, and sometimes you got cut and bleeding, and put all this back together, knowing that it will never be the same.
If there's one man in Cambodia who can begin to understand the country's violent past, it's Yuk Chang. In 1995, he founded the Documentation Center of Cambodia. Since then, he's compiled thousands of photographs, documents, and testimony from both victims and perpetrators, including this photo of the prison guard I met.
Yeah. No, he was 26, 27.
These photographs and documents have helped provide a picture of the past, and now they're helping to bring the Khmer Rouge leaders to justice.
So we'll be bringing forward policy documents from the Khmer Rouge leaders to show that these crimes that occurred across the country didn't occur just by coincidence.
William Smith is the co-deputy prosecutor for the UN-backed Khmer Rouge Tribunal. After more than 30 years, Cambodians are getting their first taste of justice. The Khmer Rouge commander, Pol Pot, died in 1998. But this June, 4 of the highest-ranking Khmer Rouge leaders will be brought to trial and made to answer for their alleged crimes against humanity. Nun Chia, known as Brother Number 2. He was second in command only to Pol Pot. Ing Tarit, Pol Pot's sister-in-law and Minister of Social Action for the Khmer Rouge. Her husband, Ing Sari, Deputy Prime Minister of the regime. And Kusum Pan, who served as head of state for the Khmer Rouge.
These 4 accused were the designers of these policies, the designers of this revolution, the designers of these methods in which these crimes were carried out.
Last year, the tribunal handed down its first sentence to Kangak Eve, also known as Doik. He was the strong-armed chief of the Tolslang prison I'd visited, and Him Hoi's boss. During the trial, Doik admitted responsibility for killing more than 12,000 people at the Tolslang prison. The 4 leaders on trial this summer haven't admitted to anything, but there are more than 2,000 witnesses who've lined up to testify against them. In advance of the trial, these witnesses are already preparing for the proceedings. Hundreds of them gathered here in Kampong Chnang province. Many traveled hundreds of miles to hear from their lawyers. Many survivors urged the court to prosecute a wider circle of the Khmer Rouge cadre, beyond the 4 top leaders. But in a country where many of the former Khmer Rouge have gone on to take positions in government, Cambodia's leaders have made it clear that won't happen, including the local governor here. Many survivors fear that those who killed and committed crimes during the regime, who terrorized their families, will never be brought to justice. But what about people like Him Hoi, who say they were forced to commit crimes, forced to kill people out of fear? Where does the line between killer and victim get drawn? With so many victims living side by side with their former Khmer Rouge oppressors, the deep wounds that divide this country may never be reconciled. But the tribunal is providing a chance for Cambodians to understand what happened and start moving on with their lives. After years of government censorship in classrooms, the history of the Khmer Rouge genocide is now part of the national curriculum. And in the months leading up to the trial, officers with the court have been traveling to schools across the country, reaching out to students. At one of the largest high schools in Phnom Penh, 5,000 students listened and took notes during the history lesson. Reach Sambat is a public affairs officer with the court.
They are brilliant. They asked us a lot of questions about what we were doing, and when we asked them questions, they could answer even the tough question.
For survivors like Sumriti and Chamme, the tribunal will not bring back lost loved ones or heal the scars they still carry. But the court is an opportunity to seek justice and to share their stories with the next generation. Hearing young Cambodians and old survivors talk about their country's future underlines the true impact of the trial. It's expected to take at least 3 to 5 years for the trial to finish, and this may be the last case that the court pursues. But despite its complications, the tribunal is bringing to light and helping to resolve the country's unanswered questions. And after 30 long years, helping survivors and the entire country to heal.